So I know a lot of you would probably be like, why even make this video? Metallica's trash. This album's trash. What the fuck are you even making this video for?
Are you fucking stupid?
While Load may deviate from their thrash roots, I think labeling this album as trash is really unfair.
I'm into garbage, it's my thing.
It's definitely a departure from what they've been doing, but why did they choose this path? Metallica's always going to do what they want to do, regardless of what anybody has to say. And Load is no exception to that. But was it a risky gamble or a stroke of genius? From chart-topping hits to cunning stunts, let's go on a journey through the start of Metallica's most controversial period. During the grunge era, Metallica embarked on a significant shift. On June 4th, 1996, they released Load, their sixth album, marking the beginning of some controversial moves for the band. Their previous album, the Black Album, had solidified their status as one of the biggest bands in the world, timed somehow perfectly before Nirvana's Nevermind. Riding high for 4 years on their newfound fame, Metallica finally paused to take a breath. While their peers were struggling to find their footing during the grunge era, Pantera and Metallica were standing strong. But now faced with some crucial decisions, Metallica once again found themselves at a crossroads, and they felt that they needed to make a change again. The first taste of this new material that fans would hear came during Metallica's performance during 1994's Woodstock. While they were performing Seek and Destroy, during the outro bridge part of the song, Metallica started playing some really bluesy riffs. And these riffs that they were playing would eventually become the Outlaw Torn. Prior to their Woodstock performance in 1994, James and Lars had actually been sitting down in the spring to start making new material for their sixth album, and they were able to piece together 30 song demos from James's and Kirk's tapes, eventually finishing 14 of those songs, and those songs would end up on Load. Wasting My Hate would be the first demo finished in 1994, followed swiftly by Load, which would become King Nothing, and Moldy, which would become Hero of the Day. They stepped into Plan Studio on May 1st of 1995, where they would continue working with Bob Rock as producer. James and Lars sought a more liberated and loose-feeling album, and Bob Rock adjusted to fit these changes, even having Kirk record some rhythm tracks while James was away. And this really enhanced the freeness and the looseness of the album. When asked about their somehow even more commercial follow-up to the Black Album, Lars had this to say. "We've had that for years," he countered. "When we put Fade to Black on Ride the Lightning, people were saying Slayer were the alternative to Metallica because we were playing this acoustic garbage. People should get off their asses to topple us. Like, here's a guitar, blow us away if you think you can." This album saw the release of 4 singles, each accompanied by its own music video. Until It Sleeps, Hero of the Day, King Nothing, and Mama Said. Each single showcased a distinct departure from Metallica's sound in the past. The first glimpse fans would really get of the new album's material is when Until It Sleeps released on May 21st, 1996, 2 weeks before the album dropped. And ironically, this single would be the first ever pirated MP3. As listeners delved into this album, they discovered not only a sonic evolution, but a visual one as well, with the band unveiling a new logo, and each band member sporting their own new look. The album cover is an art piece entitled Semen and Blood 3, and you can just guess what went into making that piece of art. And this album cover really stirred up some controversy, but it really encapsulated the daring spirit of this album. Although it was well received by critics, fans did not like this departure from Metallica's traditional sound.
And you betrayed me!
And from what I could see at the time, it was very mixed reviews. And this was a sign of things to come for the band. Despite all this, Load soared to the top of the charts and secured platinum status in most major markets. Then the band embarked on another huge touring cycle, performing 142 shows in support of this album, and even recording their second live DVD, Cunning Stunts. The tracks from Load have collectively been played 1,100 times live, with King Nothing topping the album at 368 live performances. But there is 4 songs from this album that have never been played live: Ronnie, Thorn Within, Cure, and The House That Jack Built. Load was an entirely different beast from Metallica, and this was evident in its lyrics and its instrumentations. This time around, James' lyrics are a lot more personal, and you can see that he went into a really deep introspection for this album. While there may be some songs on other albums where he talks about personal problems, the majority of Load is all about his personal problems. His struggles with depression, fame, addiction, loss of loved ones, and his upbringing. And I think it's pretty evident on this album that he's never been so raw and honest with his lyrics before. His lyrical craftsmanship is also on display here. I think he really stepped up, and you can see more poetic-like lyrics. And you can see that he was trying to take Bob Ross's advice from the last album. He splits up a lot of the words by syllables to maximize room for lyrics and catchiness. This album, you can also really see the difference in his vocal approach. He does a lot more singing on this album, and not his gruff vocals that he was doing before, even channeling some country twang for some tracks. This was all a result of his vocal training he was doing in the early 90s. Load not only introduces vocal and lyrical changes, but also instrumental changes as well. This would be their first venture into a different tuning. For this album, they were using E-flat tuning instead of E-standard like they normally had been, and that was because Kirk's demo tapes were all written in E-flat standard because he'd been playing Jimi Hendrix songs a lot during his period, and so he just kept his guitar in E-flat standard. And then when James was picking riffs, it seemed like he liked these E-flat standard riffs a lot, and he changed his guitar tuning to match it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
And I think it was just easier for his vocals because he doesn't have to reach so high. The resulting instrumentals spanned everything from hard rock to blues to country and a little bit of metal. Not as much as fans hoped for, but there is still some on here. And that really helped the loose and groovy feel they were going for this album, which was further enhanced by James and Kirk both recording rhythm guitar tracks. And if you listen to the isolated guitars, it's pretty interesting to hear, because you can really hear the differences between James and Kirk. While the precision of the earlier albums may be a little lacking here, James's rhythm hand really does shine through on some tracks. Like the intro of Ain't My Bitch, the intro to 2x4, some parts in King Nothing are really tight, and Kirk's rhythm playing really was pretty solid for this album. There's also a lot of really great choruses on this album. I think Bleeding Me might have the most impactful chorus. The riff is really simple, but it's really catchy, and the lyrics are also really catchy as well. And then what might be the most interesting part of this album is James recorded 5 solos on this album, which to my knowledge he'd only done Master of Puppets and Nothing Else Matters after this point. So it really just goes to show that they were experimenting and trying a lot of different things for this album. The guitar tone for this album really retains that signature heavy Metallica guitar sound that's further enhanced by Bob Rock's presence. James's isolated tracks are really tightly tracked, and you can really hear the weighty parts on the album that were really well EQ'd. To get the sound, Metallica used their tried and true method. I know that they used a few different amps on this album, which included the Mesa Boogie Mark IIC+. I've heard they've used a Mesa Boogie Mark IV on this, and a Mesa Boogie Tri-Axis preamp, and all of that went into Marshall 1960 BV cabs, I believe. And then at the end of their signal chain, they used the Aphex EQ-F2. For guitars on this album, James used his white MX220, and then I believe Kirk used a Gibson Les Paul. For my signal chain, I've been using the Fluff 2C+. That's going into Marshall 1960 A cabs, and for a few of the tracks, I've been using the Tone Deck Load IRs. They sound really good with the tracks. And then at the end of my signal chain, I have an EQ to really just tighten up the tone. James Hetfield had this to say about Load. Our roots are not about giving a fuck, and that's what Load and Reload are, Hetfield concluded. It's become very ironic to me that a lot of fans started liking Metallica because we didn't give a fuck. But now it's kind of backfiring on some of them. Wow, they don't give a fuck? That means they don't care about me too. So it has become a kind of paradox for some people. And those are the ones who have to really sit down and try and figure out why they like Metallica. And like he said, that not only sums up Load and Reload, but their entire career as musicians. They don't give a shit. They're gonna do what they want to do. Or while that may fail and get them ostracized, they're gonna keep doing what they want to do. Metallica's journey post-Black Album was a testament to their commitment to explore new avenues. Despite the myriad of directions they could have taken, they've always remained true to their unique path, constantly pushing boundaries and adventuring into new places. This dedication, coupled with their exceptional talent and willingness to take calculated risks, has solidified their position as the highest grossing metal band. While Load might not fit perfectly into the metal genre, its status as a hard rock album doesn't diminish its quality. It's a cohesive and ambitious work, brimming with fresh ideas that Metallica eagerly embraced. Whether it resonates with you is entirely subjective, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But objectively, this album did sell well, it did reach #1 in the charts, and is part of their discography.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
While it may have fell short of reaching the Black Album's heights, it still shows a willingness to evolve and expand their horizons. And I avoided this album initially because of all the controversies that surrounded it. Despite its polarizing nature, there are some undeniable highlights on this album. King Nothing's been given the spotlight it deserves. Until It Sleeps is a really good single. There's a lot of good choruses on this, like Bleeding Me and Wasting My Hate. And then Cure might be my favorite song from this album, which might be a little crazy. I just really like how different it sounds from all the rest of the tracks. It's got an undeniable groove about it. And then we have some ideas that might not have landed so well, like Mama Said. They tried to do a more country thing. I don't think it really worked out well. I know some people who do like it, but I don't think it worked out very well. What really struck me the most was the guitar tone on this album. Metallica and Bob Rock really do a good job at refining their guitar tone to make it heavy, while sitting in a mix really well. Listening to James's guitar tracks on King Nothing, you can just hear how heavy and tightly tracked they were, and it might be up there as one of my favorite guitar tones from Metallica. I think something that often goes overlooked in this part of Metallica's career is the guitars that James was playing live. Two of my favorite James signatures came out during this era, the Elk Skull and the Diamond Plate. While the white MX220 might be my favorite James Hetfield guitar, these are a close second and third. They're just so neat, and they really showcase James's other passions in life. Music will always be subjective, and Metallica has always stayed true to themselves, always taking risks that either hit the mark or miss it wildly. Yet their authenticity is commendable, in my opinion. Despite enduring criticisms for their albums like Load, I think time has been more kind to this album. For myself, upon revisiting this album as a more mature adult who really wants to take a look at songwriting and listens to multiple genres now, I found a lot of moments on this album that I actually do enjoy. Metallica's willingness to explore new territories is admirable, even if every experiment does not land perfectly. So now I just want to do a quick ranking of all the songs on this album to add to my Metallica tier list. Ain't My Bitch, I think that's an easy B tier. It's a good song, but like not amazing. 2x4 is like a B tier. Another good song, not amazing. The House That Jack Built, I think is like a C. Until It Sleeps, I think deserves to be in an A tier. I think it's a really good song. Not amazing, but really good. King Nothing, I think that's an easy S. It's the biggest song from this album. I think they really did a good job with this song, and I think a lot of people would agree that this is a good song. Hero of the Day is okay. I'd probably put that like in a C tier. Bleeding Me is an interesting one for me. I was listening to the song again. The chorus really hits really hard for me, so I might put it at an A just for the chorus. Cure, I know, might not be the best song on this album. It's my favorite, so I'm just going to put it in B tier. Poor Twisted Me is okay. I think that's a C. Wasting My Hate, a really good song. I think that's an A. Mama Said, I'm going to throw in the lowest tier. I don't really like it that much. I know some people that do. Probably can find them on the internet. Not my favorite. I'm just going to put it in the lowest tier. Thorn Within's a C. Ronnie's got an iconic riff, but I think it's only iconic to me because it's the riff they use in the Saint Anger movie. So that's why I remember it a lot. I think that's like another, I'm going to put that in a B. And The Outlaw Torn, a lot of people love, but I don't know. I don't get it. I'm just going to put that one in B tier too. So if you enjoyed this video, please let me know what you think. Do you love Load? Do you hate it? I know I'm going to see a lot of comments about, oh, this fucking album, it fucking sucks. But it's just an album. Everyone has subjective opinions, and it's okay if you don't like it. But I already know people are going to be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. Why do you like a stupid ass album? But whatever. Let me know your favorite live performances. I've never really watched Cutting Stunts before. I was watching it to make this video, and there's actually a lot of cool moments on that DVD. So if you like this video, I want you to check this one out here. It's kind of similar to this video. I did a breakdown of Slayer's South of Heaven. So if you enjoyed this album breakdown, you might enjoy that one. Peace.